Welcome to the Dispensary Only Foundational Training e-course provided by the Ohio Division of Cannabis Control. Each licensed business is responsible for establishing and overseeing an employee training program, ensuring that all badged employees complete all of their required training prior to beginning employment, and that all training is reviewed annually and updated as necessary. All employees must regularly receive training on all applicable materials. This course is an approved training material for dispensary employees to meet some of their required foundational training elements. Please be advised that this course alone will not satisfy 100% of the foundational training requirements. Before you begin, let's review some instructions. Use the most up-to-date version of Google Chrome. Give yourself at least 30 minutes to complete the training. Complete the course in one sitting. You will have to start over if you close it before completion. Please note you will not receive a certificate of completion at the end of this course. Each licensee is responsible for ensuring all of their employees receive the required foundational training. Each licensee must document on the employee training record form all training completed and retain those records for at least 2 years. This course covers some of the foundational training elements as required by Ohio Administrative Code 1301:18-3-10 for dispensary employees. Please note, there are additional foundational training requirements for all employees that are not included in this e-course. The chart here outlines which dispensary-specific training elements are included in the course and which are not. This e-course will satisfy the dispensary foundational training requirements for patient confidentiality, forms and methods of administration, authorized uses of medical cannabis, qualifying conditions for medical patients. We will discuss each of these in more detail throughout the presentation. All dispensaries are responsible for ensuring that their employees are trained on guidelines for providing information on symptoms and risks associated with medical cannabis, including possible drug interactions and guidelines for refusing to dispense. These elements are not met by this e-course. Dispensary employees are also required to successfully complete the PMP-ORS e-course provided by the DCC. There are additional foundational training requirements for employees of all licensed facilities, which are not covered in this course. However, the training for those elements may be satisfied by the Division of Cannabis Control's separate foundational training e-course. This e-course is for informational purposes only. It does not contain legal advice and should not be relied upon as such. The content of this course fulfills the foundational training elements described on the previous slide. It is the responsibility of each licensee and each employee to read, understand, and comply with all applicable rules outlined in Ohio Administrative Code Chapter 1301:18. If participants have questions regarding division rules, you must open a case with the Cannabis Service Center, also known as the CSC. If participants have any legal questions related to any provision of the Ohio Revised Code, Ohio Administrative Code, or any other law, policy, regulation, or rule that may apply to the subject matter of the e-course, they should consult with private counsel. All dispensary employees with access to confidential medical cannabis patient information or the medical marijuana patient and caregiver registry must receive foundational training on the confidentiality requirements pursuant to Ohio Administrative Code 1301:18-8-07. Each dispensary must ensure confidentiality of all records related to patient transactions. Without prior written consent from the patient or their caregiver or legal guardian, a dispensary may only release patient records to the following individuals: the patient's designated caregiver, the certified physician who issued the recommendation to the patient, certified or licensed healthcare personnel responsible for the care of the patient, any person that the dispensary is legally required to release the information to, including upon issuance of a valid subpoena, court order, or other similar document only in a criminal matter or an equivalent juvenile matter. An agent who contracts with a dispensary as a business associate in accordance with the regulations promulgated by the Secretary of the United States Department of Health and Human Services pursuant to the federal standards for the privacy of individually identifiable health information. If applicable, an agent of a medical insurance company who provides insurance coverage for medical cannabis upon authorization and proof of insurance by the patient or proof by the insurance company for those medications requested, and the Ohio Division of Cannabis Control. Outside of the individuals listed above, patient records may only be released when the dispensary has written authorization and consent by the patient, which must be signed and dated by the patient. If a patient is unable to provide written consent, consent may be provided by the patient's caregiver or legal guardian. Any consent for disclosure is valid until rescinded by the patient. In an emergency, a dispensary may disclose recommendation information when it is deemed in the best interest of the patient. A dispensary employee that orally discloses patient information in an emergency must prepare a written statement outlining the name of the dispensary employee who disclosed the information, the patient's name, the date and time of disclosure, the nature of the emergency, and the names of individuals to whom the information was disclosed. Aside from the restrictions on the release of patient records we just discussed, it's also important to remember that any patient information maintained in the Ohio Automated RX Reporting System, also known as ORS, or the Patient and Caregiver Registry, may not be accessed except as provided in rule for the purposes of dispensing medical cannabis. You are prohibited from accessing this information for any other reason, such as matters of convenience, to satisfy curiosity, for targeted marketing, or to be sold for profit. All dispensary employees must receive foundational training on ORS. That training element is not satisfied by this e-course, but must be satisfied by successfully completing the PMP ORS e-course provided by the DCC. Pursuant to Ohio law, The forms and methods of administration shown on your screen are acceptable for cannabis. An individual may petition the Division of Cannabis Control to approve an additional form or method of administration in line with Ohio Administrative Code 1301:18-4-03. There are some limitations placed on cannabis products in Ohio's laws and rules. No product may be false or misleading, obscene or indecent, or contain a health-related statement. No product may encourage excessive use, intoxication, or overconsumption. This includes combination with other intoxicants or illegal substances. Any form or method that is attractive to children is prohibited. Any form or shape that bears the likeness or contains the characteristics of a realistic or fictional human, animal, or fruit, including artistic caricature or cartoon renderings, is prohibited. Any cartoon character, fictional character, or pop culture icon whose target audience is children or youth is prohibited. Any product available for consumption as a commercially available candy is prohibited. Products for vaporization and smoking or combustion are prohibited from containing a characterizing flavor in the product name, or public-facing descriptors. The only exception is for characterizing flavors that mimic the strain based on the terpenes present. These characterizations of the terpenes must be based upon peer-reviewed scientific research and approved by the division. Vaporizing devices are prohibited from being designed in a manner that places the cannabis in direct contact with the device's heating element or that heats to temperatures that cause plant material to burn. Under Ohio law, the smoking or combustion of medical cannabis is prohibited. Additionally, vaporization is not an authorized method of administration for registered patients under the age of 18. Under Ohio law, certified physicians may recommend medical marijuana only for the treatment of authorized qualifying conditions. Ohio Revised Code 3796.01 defines 23 qualifying conditions and grants the state medical board the authority to designate any other disease or condition to be added to the list. The state medical board has approved a few additional qualifying conditions, and all of 26 currently approved are listed here. Rule 4731-32-05 of the Ohio Administrative Code provides details regarding how to file a petition with a medical board to add a condition and what supporting documentation is required. Additional information about the covered conditions and a list of physicians with an active certificate to recommend medical marijuana in Ohio can be found at med.ohio.gov. As we close out this e-course, please take time to review Ohio Administrative Code 1301:18-3-10 and all of the employee training requirements, as well as the division's website at www.com.ohio.gov/dispensary employee training. As a reminder, there are additional training requirements for dispensary employees specifically that are not satisfied by this e-course, including drug database training, which covers the Prescription Monitoring Program, PMP, and the Ohio Automated RX Reporting System, ORS. Dispensary employees must take the division's e-course on this subject to satisfy that requirement. Guidelines for providing information to patients and caregivers related to patients' symptoms and risks associated with medical cannabis, including possible drug interactions. The dispensary is responsible for ensuring training is provided to their employees on this subject in line with their SOPs and should include encouraging all customers to consult with their physician prior to using cannabis. Lastly, this training does not satisfy the requirement for guidelines for refusing to provide cannabis to an individual who appears to be impaired or abusing cannabis. Each dispensary is responsible for ensuring training is provided to their employees on this subject in line with their SOPs. All facility employees are required to receive foundational training on other elements provided in Ohio Administrative Code 1301:18-3-10. Some of these elements may be satisfied by the foundational training e-course offered by the DCC. Please review the division's website at www.com.ohio.gov/dispensary employee training and that e-course for additional information. Each licensee must document on the employee training record form all training completed and retain those records for at least 2 years. Each licensee is to ensure that the training materials are reviewed at least once per calendar year and updated as necessary and appropriate. Additionally, each licensee must ensure that all employees regularly receive training, which includes, but may not be limited to, any updates to training materials. All inquiries must be directed to the Cannabis Service Center. The CSC can be reached by email, phone, or within the CSC licensee portal, which all responsible parties and owners/officers have access to. This concludes the dispensary-only foundational training e-course provided by the Division of Cannabis Control. Thank you.